I feel no shame. Although maybe a little bit of shame, but you know, who doesn't at some point in time in their life? Hello, welcome back to my channel. Can you believe this? 2 videos in a row. I know that's very odd. I haven't been that consistent in a while, but if you're still here, thanks for watching. Today we're going to talk about something kind of controversial, but also not controversial. We're going to talk about this lovely book right here, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I read this book back in 2017, so it's been a few years, so my memory is a little bit hazy, but this book has made a resurgence in the last maybe year or so, I think because of Book Talk. Book Talk's like the new BookTube. I'm a BookTube person, that's how old I am. And my memory of this book came coming back, hence this drawing, because of Book Talk. I was scrolling, you know, minding my own business, and A Court of Thorns and Roses just appears everywhere. And so I drew it because I'm influenced and I fall into peer pressure a lot. I like to be involved with things that are popular in the time. I'm lame like that. So for this particular piece, I wanted to capture Feyre and Rhys as this power couple. It had been maybe 3 years since I'd actually drawn these characters. Again, I read this book in 2017. I read the first 2 before the third one came out. And then the third one came out, I think May of 2017, something like that. And then I don't think I've drawn it since 2017. So this is my first drawing back. So I was like relearning how to draw Rhys, like what do I imagine him now? And then I also wanted to make sure I was drawing them in this like power stance. So you can see I was imagining them on a throne, a really crappy throne at this point. You can see they're basically just triangles. But I really wanted them to just look powerful. That was the goal, like equal. So that if you knew nothing about this book, you just knew like, you don't want to mess with these 2. And I think that's true to the book. You don't want to mess with these 2. So I hope I captured that with this drawing. This is one of those drawings that came out of nowhere, like I said, and it was something that worked really well. Sometimes drawings just work. This wasn't something I had planned to draw that day. I just woke up, saw a TikTok, and was like, okay, I guess I'm drawing this today. And it all happened in like the course of a day. And the coloring took longer, but the sketch itself took a day. I pride myself on being able to draw pretty boys. I think that's like, if you know nothing about my art, it's pretty boys. So you can tell I took a lot of time on Rhys. I wanted to get him right. I wanted him to look just pretty. He's a pretty boy, but also like a badass boy. And then Feyre is just, you know, beautiful. They're fairies, so they're supposed to just be like outrageously beautiful. And that's what I tried to do. This was just totally a guilty pleasure drawing. So in the same spirit of the Six of Crows video that I made, I'm going to talk about synopsis of this book if you've never read it. And this is going to be a little bit hard. So this book has a twist, which this drawing is kind of a spoiler for anyway. So this is a tough book to talk spoiler free. But that's okay, we're gonna do it anyway. So the synopsis of this book, or a general description of this book, if I were gonna tell somebody what this book is about. So this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's about this girl named Feyre, so she's the girl on the right here, who is really her main provider for her family, and she's out hunting one day. This takes place in kind of like a mystical world. It's not like there's no modern technology, it's a fantasy book. So she's out hunting, like bow and arrow hunting, and she is going after a deer, where she sees a wolf also going after this deer, and she kills the wolf. And turns out this wolf is actually a fairy, like of fae people. So there are these like mystical, magical fairy people. I don't know how else to really describe that. And she gets taken into the fairy world as punishment. And that's where the book starts. Or that's like the first chapter of the book. And then from there, she ends up falling in love slowly with her captor. And he's a fairy, as you can imagine. And that's the, I guess, the best spoiler-free description of the first book. The thing is with this book, it's weird to even describe it that way, because this book changes dramatically by the end of book 1, and then into book 2 and book 3, and there is technically 4 and 5, although they're not exactly related, to the main storyline. The main storyline is the first 3 books. The rest are just kind of like in universe. But yeah, this book, 180, complete 180 changes from that initial description. So don't go into it thinking that's like the total story, because it's not. There's way more to it than that. And by the end of the series, you're going to be like, what is that? I don't even recognize the initial synopsis of this book. Like I said before, there is a twist. I call it the Sarah J. Maas twist. Sarah J. Maas is the author of this book. And she does this in her other series too, Throne of Glass, which I've read. There's just like a particular thing that she does where everything just changes up on you. So that's here as well. I'm not going to spoil what. Although people reading this or watching this are like, what? But I'm not going to spoil what it is because I want to keep the spoiler free. But there is a twist that it makes everything very different by the end of it. So I said that this book is controversial. And yes, it is. I have some mixed emotions about it. And I think people who are interested in reading this maybe are seeing this art and are like, oh, that looks cool. Maybe I'll read it. I don't want to deter people from reading this book. I think at the end of the day, it's fun. It's a fun series. Not everything has to be so serious in life. Like, it's okay to just read a book and recognize it has problems and just be okay with it. Like, I mean, take that with a grain of salt, obviously. If there's some things that are like messaging bad or harmful tropes or stereotypes or, you know, like racism and things like that, obviously that's not okay. But with something like this, where it's just a fantasy novel, it is a product of a lot of those things. But at the same time, it's kind of just a fantasy novel. Like, it's okay that things can just exist and be a product of that time or be a product of some like cultural issues. And it's okay to recognize that and still enjoy the story for what it is, if the story itself is not harmful. I don't know if that makes sense. I just think sometimes we try to take everything way too seriously, and it's okay to just like something even if it's not perfect. Nothing is free of criticism. So this book is new adult. I didn't know what that meant at the time. I read this book around I was 25 years old. And don't read this book via audio and at work. I will say, do not do that. You will be shocked unpleasantly about certain things. Especially the first 3 books, the sexy times are not, I'm just saying sexy times. The sex is not that overwhelming. There are some it alludes to some, sexual action a few times and doesn't always just describe full-blown sex, although it does a few times. In the first 3 books, it's not that bad, but it's easy to skip over if you're not that interested. I personally don't care for reading that, but it's there if that is something you're interested in reading. So this is why this is a new adult book. So if you're not 18, would not recommend this for you. But the reasons why this book is controversial is just the way, at least in something that made me uncomfortable with it for a while, and it's okay again to just like something even if there are parts of it that are bad. I didn't like the descriptions of masculinity and femininity. It really plays into patriarchal and misogynistic tropes. The men are really hyper masculine, and there's just descriptions of animalistic desire that comes up a lot. I really don't like that. Just descriptions of sexual violence, and it's just it's a very misogynistic approach to men and women, I think. And I think Sarah J. Maas kind of liked that, and that's why people are uncomfortable with it, is that she wanted to describe men and women this way almost, and also because they're not human, they're often described as just male and females, and I really don't like that either. I just don't like when women and men are described as male and females. It just seems so weird. This book also lacks diversity. Most of the characters are white, or if they are, have any color, they're described as a light tan, and that's just not good representation of anyone of color. And Sarah J. Maas has received this criticism, and I think she's trying to work on it, but it deserves to be said again. There's just a lack of diversity in this book. It is a very white-centric book, so that's something to keep in mind. And I mean, most books, unfortunately, are like that, and this just continues to play into that. At the end of the day, this is a guilty pleasure series. Is it the best written book? No. Especially later on, like in book 5. Oh my gosh. That book could have been condensed into half the amount of pages. It is like 3,000 pages too long. Like, okay, like realistically, it's like 400 pages too long, and it's like an 800-page book. She really plays into the sex aspect of it later on. It becomes very, very smutty, and I don't care for it, which is why I stopped drawing for it the more it became smutty, because I think the best thing that this book has going for it, or the series has going for it, are these characters. I think the characters are interesting enough, and especially later on, it becomes about this found family, where Feyre finds, a found family. It's really hard to get people to care about more than just your main character and maybe the love interest, but the series does that. You end up caring about like a whole cast of characters, like 6 or 7, 8 people. And I think that's really hard to do. And so I think Sarah J. Maas deserves some credit for that you end up caring about each of them individually. And I would read books about all of these individual characters, truly, because I like them. So that is definitely something the series has going for it, is that all of these characters have some place and some validity and some element of depth. Maybe not the most, but something enough that you're interested in learning more about them. And they're all hot, so it's a win-win. It's a guilty pleasure book. You're allowed to like it. It's okay, I think. It's not a big deal. It's not that serious. If you had fun with it, and again, I had fun with it. They're hot characters. They're fun. It's just fun. And that's okay. It's allowed to be that way. I do sell prints of ACOTAR. That's the way it's abbreviated, A Court of Thorns and Roses. You can see that on my Etsy store. I sell stickers and prints of this image right here. They are officially licensed by Sarah J. Maas, which is very exciting. So yeah, go and check those out if you want to buy these prints and these stickers. But I had fun drawing them. They're really fun characters to draw, and I feel no shame. Although maybe a little bit of shame, but you know, who doesn't at some point in time in their life? Well, thanks for watching. I hope that gives you a good idea of what this book is about. Again, everyone has their own opinion. I really like With Cindy. I'm going to link her channel in the description. I know most people probably watch her already, but if you haven't, my friend sent me this when she read this series, and I think she's a little bit more critical of it than I am. I just think it's okay to like have fun with it, and it's fine. But she definitely criticizes it more in a funny way. I think it's funny. So I would go watch that if you're interested. She reads all 5 books, I think. I haven't read all 5. I read 1, 2, 3, and 5. I didn't read the novella, and I don't plan on reading the novella, but I will read all the other books because, again, they're fun. Let me know if there's any other book series you want me to talk about. I've drawn a few already, and I'm reading more books that I plan on drawing about. You can join my Patreon if you want more say into what videos I'm making. Thanks to my patrons for voting for this as well. This was number 2 after No Way Home, and I had fun talking about this. The series is funny. It's funny to talk about, so I had fun. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thanks for watching. You can find where I am else and located on the internet world in my bio, and I'll be back soon with another video. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.